Yeah, really complicated. It's whose I always is our system in place.
Good, how are you? It's been a while. How are you? Good. Oh, really? Yeah, he's oh, really? Oh. I said, yes, please. Okay. She's good.
Getting sick.
Yeah, I just started seeing. I usually just want to find.
You have problems with the sound. Can you take out the sound, please?
I think this is the Y, right? That's the Y.
I'm sorry?
That's the Y. The cable is the sound, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
This one.
You were here?
So you need to, if you look at the benefits here, you don't see them on the others, they don't have. So, try to stop yourself off.
Yeah.
And instead of being experiences, this is what's possible. And if you, there's an article about ESL students. So, English, enough experience, you have data.
Yes.
She got her full license. Full. And so, the second I would. She's qualified to teach that. She's like doing work. Anyway, she got that for original. Where was it? Sorry.
Almost like
Tax-free.
Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the mic there.
Oh.
No, it's not related.
There, oh.
It's not related to, right. It's speaking. So, starting with me.
Are we? No. You're still a swap.
Okay, 2 more minutes. It's with Laura. She's our love prayers. We used to go to our monastic to do meditation. So I say, yes.
This one.
There's this one. That office in Hillview.
We know in Mountain View.
So you present with her nephew? You know that way.
He was my whole family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's very good.
He's part of the family.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So today we talk about mindfulness and addiction. Into one. Provide mindfulness-based models and be comfortable.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, okay, please.
Okay. So the article I read was focusing on, I guess, how mindfulness deals with alcoholics. So basically, it actually more specifically focused on how mindfulness practices are found in the concepts and what they call the kind of practices of Alcoholics Anonymous. For instance, the first step in the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. To me, I think that's basically just like accepting the fact. It's coming to terms with it, which is, what we find in mindfulness practice. It's one of the keys there, just to accept it. And I mean, even to take it a little farther, I think by accepting it, you could even not really go about judging it in any certain way, just accept that it's the way it is. Well, but not, I don't want to make that sound like you should change it, but yeah, just accept it without judging. And next, and another kind of practice that they have in Alcoholics Anonymous is they call it recovery meditation accompanied by prayer. I believe I'm getting something mixed up here. Yeah, I believe this is actually kind of, you're supposed to read a specific like AA book and kind of meditate on that a little bit, which is, really similar to, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but I think it's Thich, suggestion of meditation on a fixed object there. I mean, if you think about it, there in both situations, you're kind of picking something to focus your attention on. Like obviously in the mindfulness, it's focused on a fixed object. In this, you're just maybe focusing on a certain concept that you read in the book. One of the other practices they have is actually kind of sayings they go by is let go and let God. Again, I think that this has to do with, that can connect to mindfulness by if you're kind of letting your like your worries and things kind of like relieve you so you can focus more in on the present. And again, this is what most of the steps that I read, they all kind of had this similar thing in common of somehow connecting you more to the present. So, I don't know if when they created this, these AA steps, if they meant to base it on mindfulness, but nonetheless, they kind of are very similar to the mindfulness practices.
So the 12 steps somehow come from first division, right? This is ask the AA people to trust on God and surrender to God and so forth, right?
Yeah, they go. Yeah. I mean, I didn't name all 12 steps, but yeah, they go.
First thing, should you go, what exactly were you trying to get audio out of?
Yeah, let me try this.
So that cable's only if you bring a laptop and you want to add it into the video. So that cable that's sitting over there, that's only if you bring your own laptop and add it into a video. So that's if you want to splice it into a video. So you are trying to pull out the
some chocolate in this. Thank you.
Heather, this is a topic quite close to my wine-filled heart.
Mine too.
In your HuffPost blog, Put Down the Bottle, How to Stop Drinking and Be More Mindful, you talk about your relationship with your evening glass of wine. I feel like that's one of the strongest and best relationships I have in my life. Find it to be such a bad thing.
I agree, and I totally understand, and I'm certainly not telling people not to have the glass of wine. I think I have to look at my habit and say, if it's getting out of hand and turning into a bottle of wine, then it might be time to ask yourself, can I cut it back to something that's relaxing, a glass or two of wine? So that was what my blog was really about, was when you find that your drinking is getting excessive to the point where it takes away from your life versus relaxing you. I had to look at how can I cut back a little bit so that it's enjoying and not just, mind-numbing habit.
And did your nightly sort of wine ritual become what I think so many things in our life have become these days? Tweeting, texts, wine, sort of you name it, something that we do and don't actually think about doing. We're used to doing it, so we've got a phone in our hand, we've got wine in the other, we're watching TV, and we haven't actually sat down to enjoy any piece of it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. When I woke up the next day and I realized I had eaten something really delicious, but I didn't remember eating it, and I thought, ooh, this is a problem. Because I thought if I can remember enjoying the experience, enjoying tasting the glass of wine, then it's part of life, right? But if you wake up and you realize I don't remember what my experience was, kind of what's the point, So you have the TV on, you have your phone in one hand, you have a glass of wine, you're pouring really fast. I mean, you're not even living your life because you're busy just consuming everything from every angle. And look, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a process that I'm still in the middle of, but what I realized was if I want to really experience my life fully, then I need to smell the wine, taste it, be mindful of what I'm doing so that I can really enjoy the moments that I have here on this earth.
And just to clarify, we're not talking about people who suffer from alcoholism or suffer from alcohol abuse. What we're talking about is sort of the same idea of mindless eating. When you watch TV or you're sitting chatting with friends and you just open a bag of chips and you eat and eat and eat and eat and you have no idea how many you ate or what flavor they were or what it tasted like. It's about being more present, right?
Exactly. I mean, look, when it comes to alcoholism, I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that people need to seek help from. But I think there's a lot of people and women in the world who enjoy wine as a relaxation, and their habit might become excessive, and it might be kind of this dirty little secret at the office of, oh, I drank too much, or I don't feel great, or I'm stressed. And I think it's about kind of taking it back to a point where we have power over the choices we make so that we feel good enjoying the wine and we feel good the next day when we're at work or doing whatever else we're doing. And I think that comes down to, again, like you said, that mindful experience. Doesn't mean you don't have the glass of wine. It just means that you maybe take a deep breath, take it a little more slowly, enjoy it more, savor it more, because really, that's all we have in life is the enjoyment of our experiences.
So let me go back to my file with what we call here DBT. You know, remember DBT with the 12 step. You read this one or different one?
It was a different one. I
Different one. Yeah. So they discuss the form motor. And we talk to 12 step. How about let me go to the 12 step? Let's see. Here's step 1. When we that we will powerless, and to believe that how rather than how say could restore. My decision turn out will highlight open cap log, make the search fearless more so forth. So this is another step. So somehow the idea, like you say, right, surrender. That sometimes people could not control the addiction, right? Because of nicotine, because of chemical, and this is not easy for them to give up. For that kind of test, that kind of drinking. So somehow the DBT combined with this is the popular step. So that's why combined with this. Because remember we talked about right, validation, dialectic, social emotion, evaluation, and so forth. Anyway, so I don't think it will be easy. I'm going to listen to it. Not much, right? Depend on how much you control your drinking, right? And if you cannot control yourself, it's a different story. Let me go down. With all this definition. Remember, let me go down to how can, with your writing, how can mindfulness prevent from relapse? Relapse for the AA people, what do you think? Not sure, to be honest. Not sure. Compared to the mind, it's in general, but they want to find
maybe it's actually the first thing that comes to my head now. I think a lot of people, maybe with that problem, maybe drink to escape, maybe their anxiety. So I think if you can first come to terms with your anxiety, you won't be as tempted to escape it. Just kind of be more accepting of the things in life that you experience. So
I know there's some men. Normally they feel nice, they're gentlemen, but after they have some years, they turn to different. They say monster. Is that right? And they may abuse their wife, children, and so forth. They turn upside down. Things upside down. And this happens frequently to the families. And I notice that sometimes when they don't have, when they don't consume alcohol, they don't have that courage to say things that people don't need to listen to, or they don't dare to, let's say, abuse their wife, children. But when they take alcohol, they can do that. They have that kind of courage. And so in the Asian tradition, we say that, well, they get an advantage on drinking alcohol to abuse other people, or to do something harmful, so as to make mistake. And after they done, they say, I'm sorry, at that time I didn't know what I'm doing. But that's something they steal. But actually, many of them, they use that kind of skill when they're drunk. They don't know what they're doing. Is that right? So some people, they recognize as using drinking alcohol as a skill to harm or to abuse other people. Is that happening? In your case, if you saw these many times, all the times, can you share what happened?
I'm not an alcohol substance abuse therapist, but I do know that this impacts families. It's a vicious cycle. And then they wake up, they're like, I didn't do that. I didn't deny it. It's all just an escape from reality. And then sometimes the families serve a purpose to also hide the truth. So really, the entire family could learn from mindfulness to just be more accepting, maybe not judgmental, but also just to be mindful of the track that it takes, the circle that it takes.
So this is a charge. This is a comparison of the DBT target and the neural state philosophy. So it can have emotional relation, affective liabilities and proper root angle. Let's deal with this. And this is interpersonal relation, chaos relationship, and fear, abundance, self-dying relation, and so forth. So this is a charge. They recognize the effectiveness of these two steps. So here, God, shape, hope, has been in Christian tradition, right? God has the power to change people's mind. In the mindfulness one, you recognize your weakness. You recognize that you are in that state of mind, the now state of mind, right? Run away, escape it. So you have to face with it. You have to accept your problems and move on. So come to and so forth. Anyway, so this is related to the AA people, and this probably is sometimes serious for some families, right? Is that majority men or many ladies join the group too?
Yeah, women have a problem with it too. I mean, it affects.
Especially if they're still young, right? If they're pregnant, right? It's very harmful to their unborn child, right? Okay, anyway, so that is one of the approach, one of the models. They use DBT. Remember DBT? Some of you remember the approach? Remember what do you call the remember?
I remember what you call it.
Dialogical.
Yeah, I mean, there are some approaches of the DBT. Maybe we have the DBT here. Remember the book, the handbook, remember? The charge, we have the handbook. Yeah, the wise mind, remember? The wise mind is the middle way, not the emotional mind or reasonable mind, and interpersonal effectiveness too. So from here, I don't need to spend this one too much, but let's say we use DBT. So how could we have that kind of identical, right? So describe, participate, non-judgmental, unmindful, or which one we think is more effective? Which one is more effective? What do you think? You read it. We have skill here.
I think the self-respect one would be good for somebody struggling with addiction.
Self-respect.
Yes, up.
This one?
No, up.
This?
Up one word. That
Oh, okay, yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Okay. So you have to respect their body too, right? Body and mind.
But it's just to be fair to yourself and to other people. And if you're consuming too much of anything, you're not being fair to yourself, to your body, or to your spirit, or to anybody else. That if you know that when you consume too much alcohol, it changes how you behave, you're not being fair to you or to other people who have to deal with you. You know this, then you're not being fair if you make the choice to yourself or to others. And if you can accept that that's not fair, then you would want to just change the behavior without judging yourself. You don't have to judge yourself. You just say, oh, this isn't really fair to me or to them, so I can work on not doing that because of just something like that.
In college, especially on Friday night, right? People who live in the campus, how do you live in the campus?
Yeah.
They have to be party here. Oh,
Well, they sometimes do. Unfortunately, I'm the one that has to go tell them to stop. Give them a ticket. Well, I don't give them a ticket, but I call the police to give them
Oh, really?
So they don't really like me.
You have to keep them quiet?
Yeah, that's part of my job as a
Oh, really? You
CA.
watch over the dorm?
Yeah.
Does it happen every week or?
I'm sure it does, but the people who participate in parties on campus have learned to like keep it down and like be at a respectful level, I guess, so they're not caught.
Yeah.
Not that they really want to be respectful, they just don't want to be caught. But other people who have like houses outside of campus will host parties that, yeah, there are a lot of people and a lot of bad decisions. So
when they went to college, I don't know how could they drink and go to school the next day. How could they calm their mind? How could they balance their mind to concentrate on learning? I don't know.
Well, they drink beer while they study too. Just keep it going. Like, it's so sad. I see so many of my friends that have just kind of like lost themselves in, well, I just need a beer to help me study. Like, it'll take things down a notch and I'll be able to like sit here and focus. No, you can just focus.
Just make beer focus.
Like, that's not what it's used for.
Yeah. When it was asked parents that they displayed the rack, the crash car. That's usually they left student die because of the car crash due to alcoholic problems. Do they have programs here for the student about the drunk drive?
Do we have a policy about it?
Yeah, policy or some kind of program or some kind of orientation for students.
Oh, yeah, we have programs on it. I actually posted one, like, it was kind of goofy, but you have to do silly things to get them involved. Like, I had the police spraying over, like, the beer goggles, like, you know, like, the glasses that make you, like, disoriented. And then I had them play Mario Kart, like, try to drive, and it was hilarious. But then they realized, like, how difficult it could actually be, like, in a real situation when you're not, like, completely.
Especially during holiday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, Thanksgiving, and so forth, right? Anyway, so that's this approach. Okay, let's just move on to the next one. That's just it's not easy. Okay, so the next one, eating disorder, for instance, please do happen.
Yeah, so I was really interested in looking at this one because this is a potential candidate for my specialty after high school.
Oh, really?
So, and I struggled with my eating habits for about a year. So being able to incorporate mindfulness into it, besides just medication, which is typically what is used along with therapy. So the eating disorders encompass a wide range of pathological eating habits. You can't control what you're eating, or you're controlling too much. So I know that bulimia and anorexia nervosa are the two most common ones, and I'm not sure which edition of the DSM it is. But I think binge eating disorder has been diagnosed where it's bulimia without the compensatory behavior. So you're binging on food, but you're not trying to get rid of the calorie intake that you've taken in. So we're starting to recognize that there's a lot of differences between people's eating habits. And I chose MBSR as the technique for this because anorexia is commonly comorbidly diagnosed with stress-related disorders like anxiety, and its symptomatology is really close to OCD. And so, if we're using MBSR to reduce stress, it could be used for the eating habits as well, because usually the eating habits they're coming from an underlying cause. Like, it's not something that just happens. It's something that's causing you to either want to control every aspect of your life or have some control of eating, which is one of the easier things to control if you're eating healthily. But some people will take it too far and need to, since their lives seem so out of control, they're trying to hold on to everything that they can and get some sense of autonomy, I guess. And with binge eating disorder, it's the opposite. You're losing control. You're not able to compensate the way people can. So I didn't look at any of the other methods for it, but yes, I would fit pretty well.
So can you connect the eating disorder with the stress?
So, like with anorexia, I was never diagnosed, but I was close to being borderline. I started counting my calories, and I wasn't able to. It would cause me great anxiety to ever go over my calories, and so that causes more stress on your body because you're not taking in what you need to survive. So not only are you stressed about I need to stay under this calorie goal, you're stressed about my body hurts and I can't do anything anymore and I can't move anymore. I feel sick all the time. So, and I think that's kind of a lot of people with anorexia at least, that the body is in a way eating itself because it has no other way to sustain itself. So it causes a lot of stress, and it's usually, if you're diagnosed with anorexia, you're usually diagnosed with anxiety disorder as well, or depression. So I'm not sure if that's for all of the eating disorders, but I know it feels good.
I remember in some sessions we talk about the different approach of views between the Western psychology towards mental problems to the Oriental one. So in the West, there's a typical overeating. In psychology term, they call it eating disorder, right? Something is not in order in your mind. But in the Eastern tradition, especially Buddhism, it's not disorder. This is not with your mind. You can. That's why they use the secular mindfulness or meditations to get this teaching. So if this disorder, of course, you can rearrange again, but it's in the negative way, is that right? But in Bristol or in recent relations, this is somehow your outlook, your views about the food, about the alcohol and so forth, in a negative way. So you have to transform that. Okay, anyway, so anyone would do you have any guys have problems? Yes.
Oh, when I was like 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I need to say about it, but.
Especially, I'm not, I don't try to offend, but somehow, especially the lady, right? You need to keep your diet, right? Otherwise, it may affect your body. Is that right? This is one of the concern, right? Anyway, so, but sometimes people could not really control their eating style, and sometimes even if they consume too much, let's say, red meats, that may be a problem for their health. This is you see that type of patient. So how could you advise them to control their eating, to get rid their eating style?
When we talk about being mindful, like if I see someone who's overeating, I say tune into your senses, get out that piece of chocolate, think about how pretty the gold foil is on it. You know, think about that. Think about how it smells. Chocolate smells so good. Think about, you know, how it feels in your mouth. Is it a little bit gritty or is it really smooth? And really think about how it tastes to you. Think about how your body feels as you're eating it. To really kind of be mindful of the whole process of it instead of just being like, to slow yourself down, like the woman was talking about, and to enjoy it. So if you want to indulge in something, notice it, take some time to really enjoy it. And then the opposite direction, if you're like anorexic, to think about what it is that is important to you about not eating. What is it that you're eating? What is it that you're trying to say and feel for yourself? So all of it is just about taking a little time with it and to pay attention to it.
This class is we have you today. Today. Okay, let me go to the next. So this is wisdom. The research, right? You consume too much sugar, too much cholesterol. Okay, this part, this yeah. Oh, this is they divide by the system. Preoccupied preoccupation with food eating black and white thinking. Self-emotional, hyper-reactive about food, disconnect from normal hunger and sufficient foods. Depression, craving. Is that right? When people depressed, eat more. Anxiety, they have a big eating, you know what's big? They eat too much in short periods of time, right? Highly conditions response to food, general overeating, which is to say other poor self-acceptance, they don't recognize themselves, right? Self-hatred, anger at others. So if they consume too much, and the time this may be overweight, right? That's basically, right? They may not like their body. Otherwise, so that's in mindfulness. Okay, this the charge here. Remove this one here. Yeah. awareness of eating triggers, aware of hunger. Most of the time, what do you think, when people couldn't control their eating style, is it because they're hungry? What do you think? Or because of their mind? What do you think? No, when they consume, when they overeat it, is that because they're hungry or because of their mind? What do you think? Do you understand that?
I think it's an escape, just like alcohol is an escape.
Escaping.
Like when you binge eat, doing something,
It's like drinking.
allowing yourself to be mindfulness. If you typically are someone who's always in control, maybe eating a whole bag of chips is your escape from your control.
I don't know. What do you think? Is this escaping too? With your experience?
I think so.
I don't feel
It's
that.
like a detachment.
Yeah, that's probably alcohol. It's probably just.
I think people eat to escape.
Like your control. Like that. I'm trying to control my life. I need to detach from all that stress and control everything. So I'm going to.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I was just disappointed.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think? Is just overeating is just one of escaping or what? I don't feel so. For me, I don't feel that. What do you think?
It is for me.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so, okay, awareness of food related meditation resin that you say, right? Chocolate, cheese, cracker, pop, we both mini meditation, daily meal, and snack. Yep, eat mindfully. Forgiveness and wisdom meditation. How? Let's see. How can mini meditation with daily meal and snack counteract overeating?
I think even at a very subtle level, I try for myself, is trying to meditate, like in the morning, and am I hungry? I'm not hungry. And so like, oh, this morning I gotta eat. It's night, I gotta eat.
Sometimes, right, we have too much food in the refrigerator, right? And sometimes, let's say, because of our habitual habits, right? In the morning, we have to eat breakfast. Around 11 or 12, we supposed to eat lunch and later dinner and so forth. We follow that type of routine, that type of regular schedule. But sometimes, we be full already, but we still consume more. Mm-hmm. We think that we may be hungry, right? We think that we don't consume much nutrition and so forth. All is stuff in the mind. So that's why this is, mini meditation. You have to have that awareness without consumption. Raising cheese cracker. So this approach, stomach fullness, meditation. Even sometimes we try to, right? Even our stomach is so full and we try to consume more.
Does it taste good?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so again, this mindfulness, especially start with eating the resin or it consume chocolate, smell it, right? Smell, taste the chocolate or whichever food that we pay attention to. This may help us to recognize the food consumption that we put inside our body. Okay, so let's just move on to the next one. So again, it's general to use the NDSR. The next one, smoking. Yes.
So like Christian was saying, stress is a huge reason behind a lot of these addictions, both for them starting and recurring. And in particular, what I read was that a lot of previous research and findings show that stress is a particular trigger for tobacco, both as a predictor for smoking rate and relapse rate. So due to all kinds of different stressors, job stress, financial stress, social stress. So what I actually read was a pilot study on mindfulness-based stress reduction for smokers. So these researchers actually used MBSR clinically. And I'll just sort of summarize it because it is kind of interesting. They chose 18 participants who on average smoked 19.9 cigarettes per day, an average of 26 years. So that's for me, I mean, I don't know what the average is in general, but it seems like they chose people that really were seeking help, and that was one of the prerequisites, was that they were very motivated to give up smoking to begin with. So they went through an 8-week session where they met once a week and were given instructions on mindfulness, meditation, all kinds of sort of things that we talk about here. And during week 7, the participants attempted to stop smoking without pharmacotherapy, so no like nicotine patches or anything like that to help. And then researchers tested smoking abstinence, is what they called it, 6 weeks after the official quit day. And it was kind of interesting. 10 participants actually made it through to that point. 8 didn't. And the most common reason that they didn't was that they said they didn't have enough time for meditation, or the meditation was just simply too difficult. But of the 10 that made it through, I thought it was kind of interesting. They said that all 10 participants said the course ended too early after the quit date. So I guess it sort of is a testament to, if you're going to try something like MBSR, especially with a really strong addiction, you need to have sort of constant support and vigilance in maintaining it to really, see it through. But it's definitely something that can be helpful, I think, not only for smokers, but for a lot of drugs and alcohol, all kinds of different addictions. And they did mention too that the meditative techniques gave participants sort of a unique ability to manage their cravings, which probably goes back to what we were just talking about, being aware of your internal experiences and physical sensations, trying to treat them like they're a passing thing rather than something to like urgently prepare right away.
Thank you for this, Anthony. Nowadays, people smoke less, isn't it? Especially at the public place, like in the school, bus station, or on the bus, or the airplane. They don't allow people to smoke anymore, right? So, do you think people smoke less?
In the U.S.
Yes.
I think in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
When I was in Germany, people were smoking everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's good. You see some students smoking around, but it's not much,
Yeah,
right?
where's electron cans?
Oh, really? Electron
I
cigarette?
didn't know what they were. Like, I feel really behind the times. Like, someone's like, oh, it's a cigarette. I was like, what is that? I didn't know.
I think there's a big switch to that because everything's going smoke-free. Like they said, it's a smoke-free campus.
Yeah.
But those little electronic cigarettes are technically smoked. They're not regulated by any laws yet. It's a vapor. And they haven't done enough studies to know if they're dangerous to other people or not. So.
They have found there's like formaldehyde.
Nice.
There's like some toxic chemicals.
Great, at least. Good. Well,
yeah, I don't know how much. But
probably they'll start making those illegal soon too once they figure that out. But.
I've had fellow classmates smoke e-cigarettes in class before.
Oh, me too. Yeah, like
keep your vapor to yourself.
Yeah, it is vapor, but at the same time, like part of the reason why I don't want to be around smokers is that it's in my face. Like I don't want whatever came out of your mouth in my face, and it sits right there. And I was like, I wanted to tell him like, well, in the lodges, e-cigarettes aren't allowed. We've like completely like in our policies, even though they're not like tobacco, it's still not allowed. But I don't know if that goes for all of campus or not, so I haven't said anything to him, although I really want to.
Right now, in some public places, some public restaurants like McDonald's, they allow people to smoke.
No.
I remember back then, many years ago, I read an article. Probably at that time they didn't put any restriction yet. There's one story that when two people came to McDonald's to eat, and one was a smoker, one was smoking, and the next one somehow he's so angry. We talk about second smoker, right? He's so angry he stood up and dipped his hand fingers into the ketchup at the smoker. He said that you pollute my my air, now I pollute your food. This is the version. Yeah, so people couldn't control the anger. It's a really funny story. So in the dorm, there's no way around.
Yeah, no. I mean, they might, just because there's no way for us to tell since it's not smoke. I mean, it's easy to tell people are smoking in there, but like, vapor is completely different. So, I mean, they might, but they're not supposed to. I mean, if we catch them with them, then it's a different story.
If you smoke cigarette, when you walk into the room, you can smell, right?
Oh yeah, actually, we don't even have to be in the room. Like, they're set up to where you can just walk down the hallway and figure out who is. I mean, it's just part of training, like what bins go where, and if you're standing here, well, you know that it has to be either this room or this room, and so you just go to the door and smell, and you're like, oh, it's you. Like, I look really goofy because I have to have my nose in the crack of people's doors, but like, there's all kinds of tricks to like keep the smoke out. It's
Yeah, this is
It's
good.
just
This goes and how they put more tax, right, on this cigarette, and they put a lot of restriction. But somehow you think nicotine work? Nicotine, they work well for them. They do patch it
For some people.
for some. But I think this depends upon the determination, right? The will to pick, right?
Yeah.
It-
And some people it doesn't help because it's providing them with nicotine.
What is that?
Some people say that it doesn't help because it's providing them with nicotine and it just makes them craving it stronger.
Oh, really?
Some people it's better to go cold turkey, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, the whole reason my grandpa started using the e-cigarettes is because he was addicted to like the habit of going out to the garage, taking time out and like smoking, or like after a meal smoking while he's driving, smoking, and so he decided that this could at least be a little bit better. He's still addicted to nicotine, and he's like admitted that, and he's also admitted that he's addicted to like the habit of like smoking, but he's getting better at it, I think.
They have the thing where you wean yourself down, right?
Mhm.
Where like it has nicotine, and then the next set of vials has less nicotine,
Right.
and then pretty soon you're just smoking flavored vapor water. So, but you still have this habit, and you're still
Right.
taking your time out. If he could meditate when he's doing this thing, he'd probably be able to wean himself off.
Probably. I need to talk to him about that.
Okay, somehow, yeah, probably because of stress, anxiety, like you say, this is related to alcohol, drug abuse. Yeah, let us move on. Next. Number 4, those. Okay, yes. Drug abuse, you can talk with this too. Who does not find? Oh, you too. Okay, that's fine. Okay, yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah. So what's happened? With drug abuse, what kind of model do you provide?
What kind of model did I use? Well, I read an article that mentioned MBRP.
Okay, that's good.
Right. And then I also read an article that talked about Vipassana meditation. So I just focused on that, and one of the things that meditation can do for people who have a drug addiction is it allows you to recognize what triggers that addiction. Like, so if you're practicing mindfulness and you're accepting that, okay, I have this addiction, but I need to figure out how I'm feeling whenever I want it, how I'm feeling afterward, so that if you want to quit, but you haven't figured out how to yet, then as you continue your process or you continue
smoking or shooting up or whatever you're doing, you understand how you're feeling in that moment, and you can log it, you can do all sorts of things, but that allows you to figure out what's behind the craving, whether it's stress or you're depressed or it's anxiety or whatever. So in one of it wasn't an article, I guess it was a research article, and it was discussing research that was done in prison, and it had a bunch of, I guess the study involved a lot of people who were in prison because of drug abuse, and they had all these charts about, they had a control group, and then they had the people who had been drug abusers in the past or recent past, and so compared to the control group, optimism increased a lot, meditation lowered depression a lot, meditation decreased the amount of drugs used. After 3-week follow-up with people leaving rehab or prison for drug use, and decrease in negative behaviors as a result of drug or alcohol use. I have a quote here: alcohol and drug addiction are described in the Buddhist literature as problems related to ego attachment, with an emphasis on craving as the major process underlying the motivational dynamic. So I guess acknowledging your ego and acknowledging its role in your drug addiction. And then I have a list of all different types of tools that the people who were practicing mindfulness were given. So they did body scans. There was a lot of discussions. People in prison needed a lot of, I guess, moral support and talking. They needed to experience what it's like to have someone there to talk to about everything. So they would do that, and they also implement meditation, mindfulness, and the raisin exercise. I can't remember which acronym that was. Was that MBCT, the raisin exercise, or was it ACT? Somebody talked about that in here, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was one of the mindfulness-based therapies that utilized that.
Yeah. This MBCT.
Okay.
Yeah. No, with MBCT is with depression, right? MBSR. They use the
raisin exercise. Yeah. And the number of people who relapsed decreased a lot for those who practiced mindfulness. One of the things it also did was improve emotional regulation, because that was obviously one of the triggers that caused them to relapse, was the lack of emotional regulation.
So what would you have there?
Marijuana addiction. Read a little bit about like how it's addictive and whatnot, but a lot of people say that you can't be addicted to marijuana, and I think that's false. Just really. Let's see. So the article I read didn't really. They gave examples of like MBSR and MBCT, but they didn't really tell you how that could be used. It was just like how they're used in general. So, so like just the basis, like being aware of what you're doing instead of just mindlessly smoking is a good idea. I mean, a lot of people have claimed they use marijuana to calm down, or to relax, or to like open their mind. And you are doing meditation and mindfulness, you don't really need anything to aid you in opening your mind. And so then be in the present so you can focus on overcoming your addiction, and it will keep you from going like mindlessly smoking. Oh, and the being non-judgmental will help you assess your feelings and your cravings without like judging them good or bad to keep you on track. I also use the beginner's mind to like describe overcoming addiction because it will open you to new experiences without thinking about how your life will be without using marijuana. Because a lot of people are like, oh, it can't be great. Like this is good. Like if I stopped, it wouldn't be like any better. So like without making that judgment, you could move forward without using it. And then they suggested to go to meditation classes, like to kind of like a support group. So you know other people are using the meditation. You have people to ask questions, and you know, it will decrease. Like mindfulness can decrease your anxiety and stress, as we know. So that can also like reduce the need to use any other substance. There's a PowerPoint about using marijuana as a facilitator of mindfulness and like the implications for treatment of addiction. Like pretty much the whole thing was they were giving people marijuana and having them meditate with that to overcome other addictions like methamphetamine use and other like just heavier drugs. I don't know. I thought about adding that into my paper, but I don't really feel like that's a good, I feel like it's just substituting another substance for the substance, and you could most likely, with enough time and practice, use just mindfulness and meditation to overcome that other addiction. So, I don't know if we want to talk about that or not.
Yeah, this is what this is what we about. This one, right?
Yes.
So this is like substitution.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I don't think it's any different than using another type of prescribed medicine. I think that in the right context, the cannabis can be used as a medicinal source. But I also agree that if your goal is to become totally drug-free, I think you should include prescription drugs, and everything, not just, I think sometimes prescription drugs can be even more dangerous than a natural drug. But I think that you should, if you're prescribed something, that you should stick to your prescription, use it only what you're supposed to use it for. And I agree that mindfulness can help you avoid having to use any medicinal treatments at all. That might help you at least weed out everything that you don't absolutely necessary have to take. But your mind control should be a lot. But there's other medicinal purposes, but you should stick to it. You shouldn't just be, like you shouldn't be popping a whole bottle of pain pills just because you want to get high on pain pills, right? If somebody gives you pain pills, it's for the purpose of your pain, and that's it, period. And I think that it could be abused because of that if people aren't careful.
Yeah, last time we discussed about how Colorado and Washington legalize this kind of marijuana or cannabis. So what do you think?
They had a lot of success in Amsterdam treating heroin addicts with cannabis because heroin was a huge problem there, and it's reduced a lot through cannabis type treatments. But I mean, obviously your goal should be to just be yourself and not need a bunch of medications, whether they're plants or pills.
So what happened if it's turned to vote or legalize this kind of marijuana? So what do you think? You would vote for that, or you go against that, or you vote for that?
Legalization? Mm-hmm. I'm in favor of legalization, not because I'm a drug user, but because I just believe that making it legal doesn't really have the effect that people want it to have on society.
How others.
I think it should be legalized just because of the amount of people that have been in prison for it. To me, that's a bigger crime than actually using it. We have the highest prison rates in the entire country, and I'll talk about it when it's my turn to talk. But I think that legalizing it would help a lot of things. Politics.
How good have if they smoke, if they use a kind of, yes?
Well, I think that the people who are smoking it when it's illegal are, no matter what, there are people who are going to abuse the law and smoke it. But there are success stories in other countries where they have legalized it because they were spending so much money on sending people away to prison, and instead they were able to use the money that they made from legalizing it and using that towards education, rehab, and things like that. Because you're just sending people away when they really should be going to rehab, or we should be using that money on education, and no matter whether there are still going to be people who are going to smoke if they want to, but at least this way, we're not telling everyone that, okay, you do this and now you're a criminal. Instead, we're using our resources and accepting that there are people who are going to do that, and using our resources to improve education.
Addiction's not a crime. Using a substance because of an emotional issue, or because you were raised in poverty, or because of something that's happened to you in your past, and you're trying to. It's either a disease or you're coping. Neither one of those things are crimes. The only reason that the person who goes to use a drug to cope is committing a crime is because what they went to get was illegal. If it was at the store, at the drugstore, and they went and got it, and then they went home and they used it, they didn't commit a crime.
But remember, alcohol and the illegal substance can control your mind, and you don't know what you do.
Right.
While you're driving.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's an effect to communities. So that's one of the reasons why people get kept in the jail, so that they won't do something wrong to other people if they could not control their mind.
There have been enough
Put
studies.
them into prison until they've actually done something.
Yeah. And then I don't think prison is the proper place to put somebody who has an addiction. I think they need treatment.
Let's do the last one, right?
Yeah, do the last
one. Do the last one, and if we have time, we can come back to the internet, and again, addiction behavior is including this thing. Yeah, about criminal, recidivism, what do you have?
Well, are 6, 7, or 8 here?
No.
Everybody talked? Okay.
No, let's skip it. And we will come back. Let's finish up that.
Well, I actually covered. Well, studies have been conducted that show the majority of issues with recidivism are usually related to self-regulation or impulse control. So mindfulness is a huge way to deal with impulse control, because when we're having issues with impulse control, it's because if we have our observed mind and we see our emotions as separate from us, and we don't do a knee-jerk reaction and go do something based on an emotion, like violent crime, If you're capable of regulating your responses to your emotions, you're less likely to commit violent crime. If you can control your anxiety with mindfulness and meditation, you're less likely to go use alcohol or drugs to help numb that pain or desensitize yourself, because you can use meditation to do it. Theft, I can't really address it too much. It's usually more poverty-based, or somebody wanting to gain something financially. So I wasn't really sure. I mean, if you know that I don't really know how to use mindfulness for that one. I didn't really figure that one out. But with regard to the United States, the majority of the people in prison are because of drug crimes. Most people arrested for drug crimes are also drug users themselves. You don't usually find people who sell drugs who don't also do drugs. So mindfulness can help those types of people not need to do drugs, which would help reduce their recidivism, because when somebody's arrested, anybody for any crime, once you're released, everyone has to go talk to probation or parole officer, and they have to be tested for drugs. It's part of the process. Well, most states, not most states, but there's several states that have like a 3 strikes, you're outlaw or whatever. So you could end up with life sentences because you failed a drug test like 3 times. to me, that's extremely unfair. And if you look at all, yeah, if you yes, in California is one, but I'm not going to go too much into it. But there's also the privatization of the prison system, whereas prisons are there to make money. So people coming back into the system is a good thing for them because they're making a whole bunch of money. And the prison system in California makes 100 times more money than the school systems have. It's really disgusting. Anyway, so I don't believe that people should be imprisoned if they're addicted to drugs or if they get caught having drugs or using drugs, because it's not a crime, it's a disease, or at the very least it's an impulse control, and they need MBSR or they need some kind of therapy. They don't need to be in jail, because when you go to jail, a lot of bad things happen. Bad things happening to you make you want to do drugs more, and just because you're in jail doesn't mean there's not drugs in there, because there's people in jail, criminals, making a lot of money off illegal drugs in jail. And then the drugs that they're exposed to are not like a plant going out of the ground. There's some hideous, nasty drug they made in the sink somewhere. So this one said that people who are in a mindfulness program for recidivism, I'm trying to find the exact number here. The people who were doing mindfulness, like 88% of the people who did not come back to jail were involved in a program like mindfulness because they regained control of impulses, right? So if you can use mindfulness to control your impulse and to help you with either addiction or your situation to where you can make better choices, then you won't be caught in that revolving door trap. But it's obviously not the only cure, because when you have a country we're the highest in the whole world of people who are incarcerated. And the majority, there's been over 20 million Americans in prison just for drug use since the war on drugs started. So that's why I believe that it should be legalized, just because it solves, like you see a lot of the statistics come out of Colorado and Seattle. Tax income's way up, crimes are down. There's just a lot of benefit to it, and prohibition doesn't work. It didn't work for alcohol, and they figured that out in 8 years. Prohibition does not work for cannabis, and it's been since 1936. So somebody's making money off it, or it would already be. And I think that the tax coffers are a better place for that money to be, rather than whoever's pockets behind the scenes being lined, like the prison system or whoever's.
So you don't have much time to talk about addictive behaviors in blue or Christian gambling. So let me show. Some people have a problem with gambling, right? But still do you have some students have that problem? Gambling? Gambling.
I don't know.
So people get addicted to gambling.
Internet now, online gambling. Right? That's way too internet. What do you think about internet addiction? Do we have that kind of problems every day?
Yeah.
Check your email.
Especially in South Korea, it's really bad.
How about here?
And here.
I don't think we recognize it as addiction.
We don't recognize that.
It's
right?
just I need my phone because everything's in here, and I gotta have access to the internet because everything's out there.
Can you go out? Can you pass a day without checking email?
I probably could, yeah.
In my do I? In my math communications class, we were all challenged to do that for a homework assignment or something like that. And we were supposed to go like 48 hours, or maybe it was even longer than that. I don't remember. I know that I didn't make it. I mean, we were allowed to use it for school stuff, but then I found myself like on Wikipedia, like looking up something for a class, and then I'd be like, I'm gonna just be bored, so I'd like click on all these links, and it was still like education related, but I was totally abusing. I was like, it's okay, you can do it because you're learning. But this isn't for school. You're just like, you just want to be on the computer. I'm learning about. But it was very challenging. But I did go like 24 hours, but I counted the time I was asleep.
When we took our trip to South Africa for like the field biology, when they have Wi-Fi, you usually have to pay for it, which was like a crazy new thing to most of us. What? You have to pay for it? But it was really nice because I went 10 days, well, pretty much the whole time, 10 days without my phone. And when I got back, it was like, I don't even want to check it. Like, there's so much stuff. Like,
You were really busy then, right?
well, not really. We had a lot of downtime to where it would have been nice to like scroll through things and whatnot. But like, it was definitely like different because I was also waiting on my grades to be posted. So I was like, that's what I was antsy about. The only thing I needed the internet for was to make sure that I passed my class. But you know, it was nice, but it was also like I could see a lot of other people who had a more like, I'm on the internet a lot, but there's some people who are even more like inclined to be on the internet than I am, and I could like see, you could tell by who it actually like, okay, the internet knew, but
Okay, so somehow it's not the skill, but somehow we have that kind of habitual habit. We wake up, check email, read newspaper, or even read homework and so forth, right? So we get used to that kind of patterns. For me, unless someone is so craving that they have to sit in front of the computer, they have to log on internet. Otherwise, most of the time, we go with that kind of habits. Right? We get used to that kind of habits. That I don't think it's the addiction.
Right.
Addiction is still crave for that. That's a different story. But of course, we get stuck with internet every day, but because of our work, right? It's just useful. In the 80s, even in the 90s, we may not. At that time, we didn't have this kind of internet problems. But now we get used to that. So anyway, so there's many ways for us, especially mindful. Be mindful and focus the internet addiction here. Hi us with the mouse. You see this article yet?
I heard recently that there was a couple that was playing a video game for like over 24 hours and their baby died because they couldn't feed it.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Something like that.
She will put in jail too, right?
Yeah.
They played a video game so long they forgot to feed their child.
Yes.
That is an issue.
And there was a guy
addiction.
I think there was a guy in Japan who died from over because he was playing video games too long and he just was like burnt out.
Anyway, since we have a lot of things to go over, sorry. Let's go to the next one. Mindfulness and practice in K-12. That's your expertise, right?
Yes.
Okay, we have 6 of them. Oh, sorry.
4, 5, 6, and there's 6 of us. How convenient. Yes, they were. I agree.
We have 6. So we need to move through one, please. On the board. Yes, 2. Yes. Yeah, 3.
I'll take 3.
Okay. 4. 5. You the last one? Okay, so this is what's up. Okay, and now we go with human data. Okay, thank you. And on Wednesday we talk about